Here we go.
I'm glad you started the show off for us. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Alternative Blacks live podcast thingy on YouTube. I am Tyler, and as always, I am with.
Chris.
One of these days, I will have that introduction figured out the way I want it to go. But for now, you get the awkwardness. On today's episode, on today's episode. We're going to be talking about some of the classic breweries, as well as some hip-hop artists and pairing them together. The basis of this is kind of looking at the timeline of craft beer history, as well as the evolution of hip-hop, especially when we're looking at rap history and about starting back in late 70s, early 80s, and how that moves up into our current time. And so yeah, that's basically it. We're gonna take some breweries like Brooklyn Brewery, which would be an iconic brewery out of Brooklyn, but something that's really historic, something that's really known as one of those early pioneers in the craft beer scene, and we'll pair it with somebody like Public Enemy. Full disclaimer, a lot of this is coming straight out of ChatGPT, just looking at how things were just paired together. A couple of them are going to be paired up based off of what Chris and I had a conversation on, talked about, and our own personal ones, and we're going to discuss that a little bit more. I want to give a quick shout out to Ty Gothcore, who shared a video of KRS-One and his thoughts and feelings on the celebration of the 50th anniversary of hip hop, and kind of bring that all around back over to craft beer as well. So there's a lot that we're going to talk about today. It should be fun. Make sure that you're tuning in and you're commenting. If you could do it live, hit us up either on YouTube, Instagram. I've shared my number. If you have any of our numbers, just reach out to us, and as we receive things, we'll share it. Other than that, we're just going to share our thoughts and feelings. But before we get into any of that, that's right. I didn't hear you actually say it. I saw your mouth move, but I didn't hear you. Let's try that again.
No, that's how.
That's what you did on purpose.
No, I actually did say it.
Oh, okay. I just went straight through my earphones. So, yeah, we're gonna drink some beer. What are you drinking today?
Actually, I would like to know what you're drinking first, because I'm very curious.
Oh,
After our little teaser.
Because you heard I brought something from Chatty Monks.
Yes.
Well, if you can't tell, we both got our haircuts recently, and I went
At
to.
Chatty.
What'd you say?
At Chatty Monks.
At Chatty Monks, yeah.
Yeah.
But I went to Fine Lines. I don't know where you went.
I go to Cutting Edge in Lancaster.
Right, and so I was down on Penn Ave in West Reading, and I had been itching for it, and you and I haven't had a chance to link up, so I got Venom.
So you had a feeling, because now this changes my beer.
So I have Venom, which is an American lager, I believe, from Chatty Monks in collaboration with Nemesis, which does a lot of the really cool runs and all the fitness in that area. I think that Paul is doing a really good job over there. It's Paul, right?
Yes, Paul. And while you talk about how you like the beer, I'm going to grab my own version of this.
There we go.
Because I want to have a little talk about it.
Okay. So the can's pretty cool. I love the snake vibe that you get off of the can art. It said could, would, should, and did, and I think that's pretty cool. One of the things I love about running culture, biking culture, is this post-workout beer, and that's probably where I go to my review of this beer right away. It is the perfect post-run, post-bike, beer. I think it's nice, it's light, it's crisp. When I think of an American lager, a lot of times I go straight to Yingling or Boston Lager, and this is a little bit different, and it's lighter. So I wouldn't say it's different from a lager. This is exactly a lager, but it's the perfect post-run beer. That's what I like about it.
I 100% agree with that. I think this is extremely accessible, I would call it. Because we got nice, look at that pour right there.
Look at that.
Mm.
At least someone can pour it.
And you know what it is? This is, I would, we always talk about, like I said, accessibility and gateway beers, I guess, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
call it that. This is the perfect gateway beer for me because it is exactly an American lager.
Right.
Low ABV, very crisp, um, and it's just refreshing, but it is far better than what you might find, in my view, in a macro sense for like a beer that's this light. Um, as you drink it, or as I've drank these beers, I had a couple of them. You don't get that like bitterness, and by bitterness, I don't mean like hoppy bitterness. I'm talking like chemically bitterness that you start to get from those types of cheap beers.
Right.
You don't like, the quintessential American adjunct lagers, you know. This doesn't have that. I feel like most non-light beers, even like your Budweiser, your Miller High Life, Coors, which Coors itself I actually don't mind.
Coors.
Coors. But like that first sip is always okay. It's after like the next two or three, all of a sudden it's like, ooh, the flavor's gone. It's back to being disgusting. I don't know if you had that experience, but to me, like the mark of a good lager is that it tastes like a good lager throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, it should be very like even like the whole time. Like that taste doesn't change. Uh, I think what you said, it's a great gateway beer. I think this is, and a lot of times we talk about the introduction to craft beer from a much younger perspective, or at least from our age group. I think this is something that's really good to
Yeah,
like. I think this is really good to introduce to like an uncle or like your parents or like your grandparents or something like that. Like the people that are like doing the Miller, the Coors, the just those traditional macro beers. Uh, and just being like, hey, like I know this is what you like and everything like that, and you kind of look at me weird every time I'm bringing in a 4 pack to whatever function, but I brought you something that I just want to get your honest feedback on, and what do you think about this? And I think they would be pretty shocked just to like try something like this, and it not be a crazy flavor, not be overly bitter, not be something that's crazy sour or like boozy as shit, but just something that's easy
yeah,
drinking. And
it's
I think
yellow and fizzy.
yeah, and I think that's what gets you like that's what gets people to like stop by or try something else eventually. Even if they end
Yeah,
up saying like it's still not for me, it at least
you
opens
try
up like
it.
the mind.
It's like, oh, okay, these guys at least know, because now like you can go you can go to Chatty Monks with like your friends and be like, well, I don't usually go because they have all this crap that I don't drink. Now it's like, oh, well, they have something that I can drink. And then while I'm there, I might try something different. My friend has something different, something like that. So I think it's always important to have a really good, excuse me, a really good gateway beer, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, to have a good accessible lager. And I really like your point about the fact that this is like the perfect post run beer
Right.
because it really is. And I've participated in a lot of the runs through Nemesis. And I always wear their shirts to the shirt that I have to the gym, good
You
workout
just
shirt,
wear
but it's
one
like I
shirt to the
love
gym.
that's the only one. Every time it's like, oh, here comes that Nemesis guy again.
Here comes the question: does he only have one shirt, or does he have the same shirt, just like a lot
Yeah,
of them?
yeah, like at least seven of these.
No, no, I recognize that stain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He ripped it right there last week, and it's still there. Um, no, and I really like what he does, the way he's trying to get people involved, get local businesses involved, and get them uh, get them some exposure. And it really feels, at least I haven't done any of the ones this year, but when he was first getting these things together, these big runs, like it really feels like he's trying to foster like a good, healthy community in writing, and it's admirable that he's put on a lot of stuff because he puts a lot of effort into this.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. He asks for donations one time out of the years that he's been doing this. Everything else is just free. You get all types of shirts, swag, free food, drinks afterwards. Like he really goes all out to get people involved, have stuff for the kids, and just get people out and moving.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, but he absolutely kills what he's doing. And so I know when they dropped that collaboration, both you and I got really excited. And I think that's something to say from like my end of it too, because like as you said, you participated in it. I have never participated in a single thing. I've met him like once or twice um, over a beer, and COVID happened, and so things didn't work out the way that we were hoping for some partnerships to
Yeah,
work. But just to watch what he does, and I get excited about it. And so when they dropped this collaboration, Nemesis and Chatty Monks over in West Reading, it was pretty cool. Um, Transitioning into our conversation, I have two comments that are unrelated to craft beer and hip hop, but I guess they're related to craft beer in one sense. The only downside of this beer is I'm gonna be done with it before we probably even get into the conversation today.
same.
It's so easy to throw back, um, and so that's the only downside I would say is like it's good. You can keep putting it back, but if you're doing something that usually we have like an IPA or something like that that takes us pretty much until halftime, and then we get another one. Um, this isn't gonna get us like 15 minutes in.
Yeah,
Uh,
which is enough. It's not meant to be like a sipper. It's 4.5%. So
mhm.
it's doing the job for what it is. I think it's like it's hitting the style marker.
Yeah. So what I will say is I see that there are some people in the audience. That's what it's at least showing me on it. Because I'm not looking at it from YouTube itself. We go through this OBS program, so I actually don't see a lot of the stuff that happens. So I don't see individual people. I think this is the only drawback of doing it this way. Is I missed that
Yeah,
from Instagram is seeing like, oh, Raven jumped in, oh, there's Harry, oh, there's Hung, like there's Hannah, like seeing Raj, like knowing who's there and being able to just give him a quick shout out.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Makes
that
that
is
better.
definitely a difference. But
But we,
I have it up on my phone.
yeah. So I think
So if
we're two of the
chat goes
four.
off, yeah, if chat's going, I'll be able to see it this time. We're
Beautiful.
we're we're progressing here. We're learning.
Yeah, and as I said, if you hit me up through text, if you saw us on Instagram, or if you drop comments on Instagram about some of the things that we're talking about, I will be checking back to that to see if there's anything that people had said in terms of these matchups that we have. But how do you want to jump right into it? Like, because we can go straight from my example that I've been giving, or we can start anywhere. You could like shout out a person if I have them. I'll say who I pair them with, or if you have a brewery, I'll say who I paired it with.
Okay, the first one for me, and this is different than what you had in your list, right?
Right.
And I wanted to get into right away was Jay-Z.
Oh, okay. Who do you have for Jay Z?
I put Brooklyn Brewery for Jay-Z.
Really?
Yeah, and here's why.
Okay.
Here's why. I feel like the Garrett Oliver effect is kind of the Jay-Z effect in the culture of hip hop and the culture of craft beer.
Okay.
Um, and I feel like Garrett Oliver obviously has pulled just as someone who's been in craft beer for a long time and has been at the top of his game per se, right, for a long time. And he has that cachet, but he's also obviously supporting the community here. So I feel like that's Jay-Z esque. to the point where I feel like Brooklyn Brewing, because Brooklyn Brewing is also somehow mainstream enough. It's an old head, and I think the Garrett Oliver effect to me is really what got me to Jay Z.
I don't know if I would put Brooklyn Brewery specifically as Jay Z, but I would give you Garrett Oliver as Jay Z
That's the only reason I picked Brooklyn Brewery because
of Garrett
the
Oliver.
association is there. Yeah,
And I guess like definitely the different the different areas that Garrett Oliver finds himself when it comes to not just beer but just all things like almost craft, right? Like food, dining, like all of these things, right? You see him
yeah,
being put onto like all different channels and all different conversations. So I think that's where I definitely agree in that. So I'll give you the reason why. As I said, full disclosure, ChatGPT did a lot of this pairing off. I kind of gave it a little bit of a parameter saying like this is what we're going to follow. It kind of did some wishy-washy things, and then I kind of wanted to repeat some stuff, and I said cut that the fuck out. um, but for a lot of the reasons, they are a little like generic cut and paste, but I'll like explain it and why I found some of them to kind of work. So Brooklyn Brewery and Public Enemy both emerged in the 80s and had significant impacts of their respective industries. Brooklyn Brewery helped pioneer the craft beer movement on the East Coast, much like Public Enemy, with their politically charged lyrics and innovative sound, pushed boundaries in the rap world. So what I want to do with this going forward, we were talking about this prior to the show, is this is a very soft attempt at the list.
yeah,
It's something that we want to create a more concrete definitive list that we stand by and have our like really like hard reasons. But just to kind of look at it, like just throw it out there and see how all of this comes together was really interesting to us. Um, and so I definitely want to refine some things. I want to look more on the timeline and pair things a little more closely together with actual like, oh, this brewery opened up on like this date. Oh, this artist dropped their first like single very close, to that, and like let's see how they both progressed. Is that maybe not do it like that on the nose, but I want to like categorize like artists and breweries in more definitive
yeah,
eras as well.
yeah. So like the way I was approaching it in a sense was, excuse me, it's the like someone like Public Enemy, for example, their music and beer are so different as industries that I was kind of having a hard time deciding how I want to approach comparing because and I think that's also why I landed on Jay-Z and the fact that he's made music recently and he's been producing from that early time all the way up to now and he's still influential in a way. Um, and so I was kind of like, okay, well, because a brewery, if they're open, they're still open. If they're done, they're done. But like any a rapper can take 10 years off and come out and make more music now.
Well,
So it's
so
like how do you make that comparison?
well, to be fair, you have stouts that's like granddaddy of craft beer, and then they get bought by like Evil Genius later, and Evil Genius decides that they like not bought by them, but they purchase the recipes and are able to put it out under the stout's name. And it's like, oh, there was that hiatus, there was that in between time that didn't really like exist, and then it
But
gets
so
they
okay,
brought back,
that's a
and same with Reading Premium.
true. But so that's a good transition. Why why Stout's choice? I think that one to me, I'm not quite making the connection between Stouts and Nas.
Oh, okay, that one was bullshit. So Stouts
Okay.
and Nas, it's immediately bullshit. I threw it out there as a thing. Let me find the reason why, and it's kind of there. and you can make the argument, I guess. But stouts established in the late 80s by Carol Stout holds a significant place in the craft beer movement. Its longevity and commitment to quality and tradition make for an interesting pairing. Uh, Stouts Brewery, with its long lasting presence in the craft beer scene, Stouts Brewery is akin to Nas in the hip hop world. Both have remained true to their roots, maintained a consistent standard of quality and craftsmanship over the years. Nas, renowned for his debut album Illmatic, is often regarded as a classic and a benchmark in hip hop, much like how Stouts Brewery early beers were considered exemplary during the early years of craft brewing. Both Nas and Stouts have continued to be respected figures in their respective industries, representing longevity, reliability, and a commitment to their craft that has stood the test of time. And so you could make that argument with that little like hiatus in like Nas's like career and then his most recent comeback. That is almost
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
yeah.
That's a fair. I forgot that stouts didn't just go away completely. Um, but that being said,
I think it's weak.
I feel like I like the hiatus aspect. If there was another brewery with that situation,
And there might
but
be.
the comeback to where we are now is like a complete like elevation back to the level of what they originally were when they were first making their name. You know
Yeah,
what I
like
mean?
Stouts coming back and having like some beer that is put out by Evil Genius. It isn't like this like holy shit Stouts is back.
It's
It's
back.
like if you knew craft beer in the history, it's sort of like the Reading Premium. It's sort of like
Yeah,
Deppen.
it's an open history. Or yeah,
It's like
Deppen Creek
if you
Mill.
were really in tune with it, like the big hip hop head, like like that type of stuff, where something came out, like you'd be like, if they put out like a big, if they found unreleased music from Big L,
I knew you were gonna go to Big L.
I
Yes.
think some people would be like, whoa, this is crazy, but it wouldn't
There's a
be
lane
like,
for that.
right,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be like everybody like stops and Big L tops the chart right out of nowhere, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's more akin to like what stouts would be, because I don't feel like everyone is on that train. I don't feel like I think it just specifically because we're so regional. Stouts has a bigger name. Now, granted, Stout should have a huge name. Woman-owned brewery, like huge name for when it was doing it. It was doing incredible beer festivals before beer festivals were beer festivals, right? Like, just it's different. That being said, I don't think it holds the name of Nas. And so, yeah, admittedly, that one was just a little throw out. I asked ChatGPT to do something for stouts just because it was like, I need to do some like regional things and see like what pops up. But I want to go
Yeah.
back to Jay Z and who I picked for Jay Z specifically, because I think I told you originally when I put in this like some more of the prompts and I was trying to get some more people out there, it was kind of repeating some breweries and I didn't want it to. And
Yeah.
so I won't say who I paired with this brewery, but I'll just tell you who they originally paired with Jay Z, and that was Sierra Nevada. Um, and so their reason why was Jay Z's rise to prominence in the late '90s and early 2000s mirrors Sierra Nevada's continued growth and influence in the craft beer world. Both became iconic figures in their industries, expanding their reach and leaving a lasting impact. During this era, both hip hop and craft beer experienced significant growth and diversification, with artists and breweries pushing creative boundaries and solidifying their positions as major influencers in their respective domains. Good, but I don't look at Sierra Nevada as, and maybe I just haven't like looked into it too much. And I have a book right here from Sierra Nevada that I should be reading. Uh, but I guess what I didn't look into too much was like what other like industries and what other like lanes Sierra Nevadas have like has control of. And I don't really
Yeah.
know it like that. So this is why I kind of looked at, I paired it with a specific brewery, Jay Z, but it's more of the umbrella company that I've actually wanted to put it under. And so I put Jay Z as
Wait. Umbrella company. Mm. Sam Adams?
I put them as Sam Adams. More specifically, Rock Nation is Boston Beer Company.
You know what? God damn it. That's better than my pick for specifically Sam Adams, the beer,
Right.
not Boston Beer Company. But Boston Beer Company, yeah, that's
Yeah, and I think
what other comparison can you make, really?
yeah, and that's kind of where it was. Is like what still falls in line as technically like craft beer. That doesn't go into any of the like big holding companies or anything like that, like the ones that I
Yeah.
guess I'm seeing like a lot of news out of recently. ChatGPT also tried to say Omgang. I think it's too niche. I think it's too by itself. I don't think it like has too many like. I think what they do is great, and I don't think they have any like real
They have
competitors
an
against them.
extremely, yeah, specific lane.
Right. But like I felt like I feel like Sam Adams maybe more than Boston Beer Company itself, but Sam Adams itself is very comparable to like there are other big breweries that you could line up and say this is in competition with this brewery, which is in competition with this brewery, and so you could say that with the Jay Z's, the Nas's, the Drakes, the Lil Waynes, the Biggies, the Tupacs.
Yeah.
It could be a bigger argument, right? You could still put Sam Adams up against Russian River, right? Even though it's not like the same size, it's historically like okay, yeah, which is Russian River was going to be the like the Tupac reference, right? So, but to go before I get to that, go back to Jay Z, Sam Adams. Sam Adams Brewery, known for its widespread popularity and role in popularizing craft beer in the U.S. Sam Adams' influence and scale parallel Jay Z's uh, impact and success in the rap industry. Sam Adams helped introduce craft beer to a broader audience, similar to how Jay Z brought rap to mainstream recognition. Both Jay Z and Sam Adams achieved immense success in their respective domains by appealing to a wide audience while maintaining a level of quality and authenticity that contributed significantly to the growth and acceptance of their industries on a larger scale.
I don't hate that at all because you know what I was thinking? I'm like, okay, well, Sam Adams has to be one. What would we do Sam Adams? What about like House of Pain? Right? Because they like
Hop around.
well, I'm saying what hop 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 everybody hop. House of Pain is now obviously Sam Adams Boston Beer Company has continued to grow,
Yeah.
and Sam Adams does have more. I feel like their Oktoberfest is just as popular, almost as their lager, but the lager is like a historical like snapshot in time. Like this is like Boston. Well, before they freaking changed the recipe, and anyway, the classic that is Boston Lager. To me, it's just like here's this moment where this one recipe created everything behind it, created the notoriety, and just from that narrow aspect, I'm like, jump around House of Pain. I mean, like it's a classic song that everyone today knows, even if you weren't there at the time. And maybe there's more significance. There's other things that people at the time would say, oh, well, you know, yeah, you might know House of Pain, but they also had this one and this one. But everyone knows House of Pain. Everyone thinks when you think of Sam Adams, it's just the Boston Lager.
Right. So take the Boston element out of it.
Sure.
I just ran two more things into ChatGPT trying to figure out who we compare with House of Pain, and can you guess? The one isn't considered craft beer, so I don't know why I brought it up, but I know why I brought it up, and it just made me laugh.
Budweiser? I don't know.
Guinness.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah.
I disqualified it, but then I said, okay, let's try to like bring in an American craft brewery to pair with House of Pain, and they said Great Lakes.
Mm.
And so I think what the issue we might run into with trying to do this in particular is House of Pain. I think may might be more celebrated in Boston than nationwide, worldwide. As like there's Jump
Yeah,
Around, but outside of
that's
that, I don't know how. Like outside of like Irish America, like I don't know how celebrated it is.
okay. But how celebrated is Boston Lager comparatively outside of
It,
Boston?
I think it
Like
has
I
a
feel like
huge reach.
it does, but it's like it's still second or third option for a lot of people.
For a lot of people. But
I feel like if you're in Boston, people in Boston don't, yeah, I'm just get a Budweiser. It's like, no, I'm gonna get a lager. The lager is what our Yingling, if we say, oh, we want a
right.
lager,
Well,
we
I
get
would say
Yingling, which is
I would
closer,
almost I would
you know?
almost say Yingling is closer to House of Pain than Sam Adams.
Hmm. If there's a way to make a Florida connection and a Northeast connection, then Yingling would be that.
So what I was gonna say about trying to like create some of these parallels or trying to make these pairings is going to be also looking at it would have to take a bigger look at like regional like breweries that don't have as wide of a like distribution, right? So
True.
here's one that I just came up with on the spot, and I think it's a good reference. Is for instance, Dock Street historical, but is very regional. Does not have a huge distribution, and therefore I would actually pair them with okay, not longevity wise because Doc Street's like from the 80s as well. It's like 85, so I wouldn't actually
Yeah.
like make this comparison from a came around the same time, blah blah blah. But I will say for
Yes.
regionally is like known, but I don't know how well outside of the region would be
Okay.
Chill Moody, who
Okay.
coincidentally did a collaboration with Doc Street, right?
Well, to me, that right there is the kicker.
Yeah.
And since we're on, well, that's really good. That's a really good compare, actually. That's a good one. On that similar topic, here's a question for you. Two locals,
Oh,
okay? Are they now? I was thinking about, are they brothers? Aren't they
yeah,
brothers? Or
there.
they're brothers? So the Clips
Oh, if we're not going too technical again on the
region,
region,
but now the thing is, we're probably obviously not from a parallel timeline standpoint. Like they're new comparatively to the Clips, obviously, but they are on the come up, and I think they're going to find themselves with a decent bit of success once they get that established foothold that they're currently working on, right?
yeah.
Uh,
So
and so I feel like I'm calling the Clips as ahead of time. Like I'm shooting that shot right
okay.
now.
Unfortunately, like for me, it's hard for me to do a quick search and grab the like quick information about two locals so I can jump it into
Yeah.
ChatGPT because of its like limitations, and because of the regionality of it. Two locals is incredible. I love two locals. The Clips I think is a really interesting comparison. I think you're onto something there for sure. Um, what about two locals and two chants? No.
Well, there's another group that I wanted to kind of bounce off of you and see if we could come up with a comparison that wasn't on the original list, and I couldn't think of something good
Okay.
enough, and that is Outcast.
Oh, Okay,
Where
so
do you put Outcast?
Outcast. Let me see. Outcast did pop up, and I think it might have accidentally like fallen into a repetition. Let me double check where they originally put him as. Outcast, I definitely want to like throw as an Atlanta brewery. It's just Atlanta is just such a tough place for me in terms of trying to like nail things down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd agree. I agree with that. I think maybe we have to, and so that one was one I was struggling with, and the other one
Okay.
was I went to, yeah, go ahead. What you got?
So, Outcast fell in line with Wu Tang Clan, and were both put out as
Mhm.
Dogfish Head.
Oh, shit.
And I think I opted for Wu Tang Clan more
Oh,
than Outcast. I think if I had to pick between the two, I felt Wu Tang was more Dogfish than Outcast.
why?
For me personally,
Yeah.
um,
Or even what was the reasoning behind those choices?
okay. So the first one for Dogfish and Wu Tang was Dogfish, known for its experimental brews, mirrors the innovative spirit of the Wu Tang Clan. In the rap world, both were pioneers in their fields, pushing boundaries and gaining a dedicated following for their unique offering. Which is really true. Early Dogfish was trying to do like a lot of different things differently, right? And so Outkast and Dogfish Head was Outkast's innovative and genre-defying music is reminiscent of Dogfish Head's experimental brewing style. Both were known for pushing boundaries and creating something entirely fresh and unexpected. They missed an opportunity there.
Yeah,
Entirely so fresh and so clean, 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 right?
yeah. So okay, now this is why I would have chosen Outcast
Okay,
because of the off-kilter style of Outcast and Dogfish Head basically outside of their 60, 90, 120 minute series, everything else is like way, way left. And they're literally their motto is off-centered, the off-centered ale for off-centered people or something like that.
right.
And also, I think to wrap it even more, like literally, I guess, Big Boy, like Big Boy and Andre 3000, they're kind of signature for kind of purposely rapping off beat and catching the beat off kilter, perhaps off center. So
I
I think I
I
like
think
it more to Outcast.
I agree. The more I think about it, for Outcast being Dogfish, and another reason is the if we think about Dogfish doesn't also just have the beer; it has the spirits as well, and I think that's the like nice part
Yeah,
about how different Andre and Big Boy really are. Like
yeah, you
one's
have
much more like I think more spiritual, and one more is like more earthy, right?
more lyrical.
Yeah, yeah, and so I think that's a very interesting comparison between the two. The only reason I think I kind of went Wu Tang with Dogfish originally too was because of I guess the umbrella nature of it and more all encompassing. Again, Boston Beer Company having some of Dogfish now. Um,
Yeah, that's what, but I would actually choose Wu Tang to be something that is the umbrella.
that, so I think I would like to explore trying to figure out who Wu Tang is more as well. I don't think Wu Tang has been defined yet. I think I agreed originally with Dogfish and Wu Tang because I just thought that was more appropriate.
Yeah.
Originally, you have convinced me otherwise. Another one that popped up as for Outcast as an option was Anchor.
Mm, Anchor Brewing, the steam beer
Yep.
Anchor.
No.
I actually thought of Anchor.
Ooh, who'd you pick with Anchor?
I chose E40.
Ooh.
Ooh. And here's why I chose you both. Mm.
Okay, I see the West Coast.
Yeah, can I go? Just tell me when to go.
Go. Full steam ahead.
All right, we're losing steam here. So the reason I chose, well, one, Anchor is San Francisco, right?
I think
Or the
so.
Bay Area. It's Northern California, E40 Bay Area, right? So you have the regional thing, and I was
San
thinking
Fran.
regional. And so you have that, but also it's an extremely like iconic type of beer that's very specific to that region. Like you can't do that everywhere because of the environment of the place. You can make steam beer. They're taking advantage of the environment of the place. And I feel like that's kind of similar to E40. E40's biggest impact was as like a culture innovator with
Mm-hmm.
slang style and that type of thing from that and putting that on display from the Bay Area, putting the Bay Area slang style on display. And because the steam beer is something that's extremely Bay Area and very quintessentially Bay Area and famous for that, I feel like that's where the connection is.
Damn, dog. You know, with that being said, I need to get a new beer because you just.
Let's take a break.
We're
So
gonna hit a break. I'm getting a beer. We'll be right back.
same.
All right. So
Trans.
first off, fuck the, fuck you, bitch, and the click you claim.
So we're talking about Tupac now.
No, we can get into that in a second. I want to hear what you're drinking, you bitch ass.
Well, as you can see that I'm drinking is Stilling Street from Trillium.
Before we get into that, Chatty Monks, pair that with Nova. Uh, or beans.
Beans.
I just
Um,
had to. All right, Trillium, what are you drinking?
well, my name's Chris, but I'm drinking Trillium, and this is Stilling Street, which is it's an IPA.
Oh, it's
Once
a
again, that
really good one. Yeah, I really like that
the
one.
artwork, like like you said last time, like the artwork is just so. I don't know what draws me to it, but I thoroughly enjoy the artwork. It's 7.2% IPA, just really solid. I really like because all of their IPAs that I've had have been obviously they're hazy IPAs, very opaque. But like I think I said this last time, the way they do them is just so good that it doesn't leave you wanting for
Yeah.
anything.
Um, which I think is a good. Maybe this is an actual good representation of who ChatGPT paired. As much as I don't want to bring this individual into the conversation, it's ChatGPT compared Trillium Brewing Company and paired it with Travis Scott. Um,
Oh,
and
is that what it did?
yeah, it's
I have
a.
Treehouse here, which I was also confused about, but I'm equally confused about this one.
Oh, you got Treehouse and Travis Scott, or did I write that to you?
That's what's written here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I messed that up.
That's
Um,
Trillium and Travis Scott.
yeah, yeah. So
Cool.
Trillium, Travis Scott. So Trillium Brewing's focus on quality and experimentation resonates with Travis Scott's innovative and genre-blurring music. Both have pushed
Mm.
boundaries within their industry, gaining widespread acclaim for their creativity and willingness to defy norms. Um, I think now that we're talking about it, Travis Scott and Treehouse might have a better. Is Treehouse the one that's having issues with their shareholders, like where they're not paying out people properly?
Um, Good question. Let's check that out. I wasn't sure. Treehouse shareholders.
Yeah, it's Treehouse. Treehouse owners paid themselves in excess, cheated on a bunch of stuff. The minority
Mm.
shareholders are like suing Treehouse. I would put Travis Scott with Treehouse only because of all the fucking shenanigans that happened at his fucking festival.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, he's fucking over the middleman.
Right. So I'm gonna leave it there. What I wanted to say on Trillium's behalf is they have really good IPAs, these really hazy things. However, I think they really knock it out of the park when it comes to some of their more experimental stuff, which is what was kind of brought up here. Their daily serving, their fruit beers that they have, which basically they pack a daily serving of fruit into a can. Uh, is absolutely refreshing. It's an incredible experience. I think those beers are delightful. But then they also go with some of their stouts. Their I forget who they did a collaboration with that I sent to you last time I was in Boston. I had it. It was a really really good. But they do some really incredible beers, and I just think absolutely nuts. Great job. It's one of those that kind of are continuing to
Yeah.
expand, grow, have obviously a great recognition in the Boston area. Maybe you want to consider them for House of Pain. Um,
You know
but
why I didn't? I think it's literally just because like you said, the experimental thing. I think the standing today that they keep pushing out to me didn't resonate.
I think for me, it's like, oh, no way.
No way.
Shut the fuck up. I think I found. There's no fucking way. I think I might have found who I want to put as Trillium.
Oh,
I have to do like
On the edge
one
of our
more.
seat.
I know I have to do just one more check of how close this one area is to the other area. I found somebody who's from Worcester, or Massachusetts, and I'm considering it close enough to Boston. Boston. And that would be Joyner Lucas.
Is that really where he's from?
Yeah.
Okay, I
So
can see.
I was looking up like Boston rappers because like House of Pain just can't be the only thing that we continue to refer to, and I really enjoy Joyner Lucas. I think
I would say that I think Trillium's product versus yeah.
yeah.
You, we're okay. We're on the same
Yep.
wavelength there.
It's only if we're doing this based off of proximity. And again, this is where taking a more dedicated look into the timeline of when these places came out, like these breweries come out, and when Joyner Lucas came out, but then also looking at what other breweries are in that area. So I think we need to set a guideline and some rules going forward into how we're going to continue doing these pairings. If there are some of these more iconic ones that we're like, this just has to happen and it has to work, um, that's fine, and we'll continue with those. But then going forward, after we've defined like Crowns and Hops, Kendrick, and location and proximity work, like that's just it's stuck. Fuck it. Um,
Well, yeah, I was say the reputation, I think, is what's doing it for me.
but
And you could also maybe, I think you could also argue Dr. Dre actually, or NWA as a whole, in the fact that they weren't at the very beginning of craft beer, just like they weren't at the very beginning of hip hop, but they came along and pushed the movement forward.
right.
Paradigm shifting. I also think, in terms of paradigm shifting, a discussion, who would Weathered Souls be?
Ooh.
Because to me, what's defining there is they created a moment, right? They created an extremely influential moment. Now, you could, I think I might know who you're thinking.
Who?
So I'm not making the comparison. This is just in that space, someone who created a moment and is also from Texas would be Lil Nas X,
No, that's even better.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
that's a good one.
I don't know. Outside of that comparison, there's not quite as much there.
So I think what the trickiest part with like Lil Nas X is going to be with this is we have to be very, I think, intentional and very conscious about how hip hop also treats though being gay in hip hop
Yeah.
is such
No,
a
you're right about that.
yeah, it is such a I believe challenging thing, not from anything that I have lived, just through an outside perspective. And so I think, you know, when we go to draw the comparison of Lil Nas X to another brewery, I think we have to keep that presently in mind on that difficult nature of it. And I think it's present there because what we have to remove from when we're looking at it is when we're in the craft beer space, in the craft beer space versus versus hip hop space. Hip hop space almost comes with the assumption of almost blackness, right? Like almost always blackness.
True.
Um, and so the thing that's almost never considered in hip hop, I think, especially historically, has been like being other in terms of like sexuality, especially. So when we do look at Weathered Souls, the thing that doesn't come into to mind often is the blackness. So maybe that is the actual comparison, and maybe it is a good marrying of it, and then area as well, and about time frame. These are just the things that are going to be, playing in my mind, and how do we make sure that we are very meticulous and like about how we select things, and that we're not
Yeah.
uh,
That's
neglecting something.
yeah, that's fair.
So that's the only reason. I think you're actually right. I think I talked myself back into it. I had to make sure I was being really intentional about it.
Well, it's also like, as exclusive as hip hop culture had been and has been to that community as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Craft beer has kind of been that weird of, we're not exclusive, but we're not inclusive either type of
Right.
deal. So it's like exactly how many choices do we have then in that realm?
Yeah, I agree. We are at like 8 o'clock already somehow. Like it's 7:57. I'm not saying that this needs to get like. I'm not necessarily done for this conversation because I love this conversation. I just want to make sure we get through the list that I have written out here real quick. In a way that we get to say, if we want to have a conversation about it and circle back to it, we can. And if there's more people that you have, we can continue talking about those people. I just want to make sure we say everything first, and then we can go
So
deeper
the
into
only
it.
I only had, yeah, I only had one other item, and let's run through the list first because it's gonna come up.
Okay, so I already said Brooklyn Brewery. See, I came prepared.
You got wow.
Brooklyn Brewery. We said Public Enemy. We put a little asterisk next to it because we definitely think that Garrett himself is Hova. Um,
Jehovah in
yeah.
this case.
Uh, Sierra Nevada, I alluded to, I think earlier maybe, and put as NWA.
Based on the description you read off, yeah, I can see that.
Okay. Dogfish, we decided was actually Outcast instead of Wu Tang, so we actually need to find somebody for Wu Tang.
Yeah, and that's going to be difficult.
Russian River, Tupac.
This one, what is the reasoning behind this one?
Let me find it. I actually think this is a really good one. Um, and the only thing that I was thinking about after putting this together was, okay, but now we have to find Biggie, and I never put one together for Biggie. But let me go back and find the explanation in a second. We're
You
gonna.
know, while you're doing that,
Mm,
it could be a Brooklyn Brewery double duo whammy here, where the brewery itself could be seen as Biggie,
yep,
then Garrett Oliver could be seen as Jay-Z.
that is very good potential. I wrote it down. Um, Russian River and Tupac. Russian River's influential beers, especially their Pliny the Elder, could be likened to Tupac's impact on rap. Both became iconic figures in their respective domains, leaving a lasting legacy even after their early influence. So again, going back to, a lot of these are cut and paste. A lot of these could be applied to
Yeah.
almost all of this. But I do think, while Russian River has other beers, it's not like it's usually a reinvention of Pliny. And I or it's something like completely
Yeah.
different,
If
and
you
it's not
ever,
like a lot. At
Mhm.
least because that's not how we get access to him. So I think we have a very direct route to Russian River for some reason in Philadelphia. That we have some really good ties there, and we get their stuff a lot.
Yeah, super duper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I thought Russian River and Tupac wasn't the worst thing in the world.
No, and I didn't disagree with it.
You just wanted to know why.
I just wanted to know why,
Yeah. All right.
because that explanation makes complete sense. Although I would say that Tupac is Russian River. I don't want to call Russian River like a one or two hit wonder in that sense, but in terms of like its lasting impact, it's like Pliny the Elder and Pliny the Younger. Where I feel like Tupac has a little more of a lasting impact song wise. That's a little more diverse.
For sure. And with that being said, I could, and this is the only
Well,
reason why
well,
not.
though the before you to the counterpoint of that though, if we're talking about beer, really, how many places have five beers that are iconic? They don't.
Victory, Trogs, Sam Adams.
Sam Adams has, in my view, they have two beers that are iconic.
Who, Sam Adams?
And yeah, and that could be 1.5 beers, really.
They got
We love Oktoberfest, and we
the
think that,
Oktoberfest. They have
but
Boston
it's like,
Lager. They have cherry
it,
wheat. Um,
I forgot about cherry wheat.
yeah.
What's iconic? Like, yes, they're popular, but Boston Lager is the iconic one.
Okay. Yeah. No. No. These arguments are valid.
And so you have that. So, and then what were the other ones?
Yeah.
Trogs, I think,
You have
Perpetual
Troganator. You have
iconic.
Perpetual. You have
Troganator,
uh, Nugget Nectar. Um, Nimble Giant.
Nimble Giant had its own. Nimble Giant's the first beer that I checked in that gave me a beer specific badge on Untapped. I was like, "Okay."
That is the definition of
That's the definition of iconic.
Yeah.
There's literally an icon on my screen
Yeah.
when I checked it in.
I think
Victory, I feel Victory, I don't know about.
yeah, because
Golden
it's their
Monkey.
flagships. Their flagships are like right up there because you have Golden Monkey,
Okay,
you have Dirt Wolf, you have Hop Devil, you
okay.
have
How,
Sunshine Pills is the other one for Trogs.
Sunshine Pills, you're right, and Golden Monkey. I'm not ready to. We both love Dirt Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Is it iconic?
Is Dirt Wolf iconic? If it's not, it should be.
Hmm.
If Victory would pay me, I would go around the nation, around the world, handing out Dirt Wolf. And
The
they don't
only
have to
beer.
pay me much. They just have to get me places.
Yeah.
I will trade beer for other goods. Like I will be fine.
You're gonna barter. You're gonna do the barter ring, like you're.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like one of those like snake oil guys. Like, look, this beer will do wonders for you.
Listen, you're on a wagon in the middle of the city.
The wagon cost me like a couple cases.
No, the wagon's just an old barrel.
4 old barrels.
4 old barrels. Well, it's 4 old barrels on top of a larger barrel.
Right. Well, underneath a larger.
Underneath a larger barrel.
New Belgium was the Neptunes.
That's a good one, actually.
Trogs, Mad Elf.
Maddo. Yeah, Maddo.
Yeah, the Neptunes. New Belgium.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I think I can go and read that real quick. Neptune's production style, innovative beats, and collaborations mirror New Belgium Breweries' innovative approach to brewing and their emphasis on collaboration and experimentation. I just think New Belgium, they're just unapologetically them. I think like they found a lane, they went with it, and they like what because Voodoo Rangers New Belgium, right?
Right. So you have a lane of hits.
What other brewery has action figures?
I couldn't tell you. I feel like Trogs would probably.
And you know what? The only other person that I can think of, like the only other group that can be like, you know what? Who would do something like this is Wu-Tang Clan. Wu-Tang Clan would be another like maybe possible New Belgium. But I do think for some reason, and there's not a good enough explanation, but I do think Neptune's New Belgium.
I will say what you could do, and hear me out on this one. New Belgium as the Wu-Tang Clan collective New Belgium itself, because it's so big
Right.
and such has such long good standing that it
Neptune as
could
Voodoo
be
Ranger.
thought. No, this is actually an argument maybe for Wu-Tang Clan in that
Mm.
itself. You have Wu-Tang Clan as New Belgium, the collective.
Ooh.
All the mainline Wu-Tang albums are Voodoo Rangers.
Ooh.
So you have the
So,
Voltron Foreman, and then all of
oh,
their main line stuff that's great are all of the branch albums of the
so
individuals.
like every different Voodoo Ranger, because there's different Voodoo Rangers. That's
Yeah,
Method. That's Ghostface.
it could
That's
be that,
Raekwon. Or the
or even
albums.
you could say those are the albums, and then
Enter
like
the 36 is like
Fat Tire,
Voodoo.
Fat Tire is Fat Tire is Raekwon, and you could say because they have shoot, what's the other one? Is it accumulations coming to mind? But I feel like that's a new trail that I'm thinking of. That's called accumulation. They like a really good. I think it's like a winter type beer, but like they have all their beer is really good, and I feel like some more iconic than others, such as a Fat Tire. And I feel, and then the Voodoo Ranger series is just like that's that's what's it. So you have that, and then you have like the branch off albums
I like it. Nah, I'm here for it.
roster.
Um, 50 Cent as Lagunitas.
I was interested about this one.
I'm scrolling back up because I went up down a rabbit hole real quick. Let's see. 50 Cent Lagunitas would be right here. 50 Cent's rise to stardom with his gritty and aggressive style aligns with Lagunitas' bold and hop forward beers. Both became synonymous with a certain edginess and garnered widespread popularity during this era.
So that one's more of a timeline
That's the timeline specific.
comparison.
Um, I think 50 Cent has a lot more nuance to it. So I think like 50 Cent actually ends up being in one of these larger uh, behemoths. Maybe even
I hope it,
talking like Sierra Nevada more.
I had a yeah something like that. Maybe even Stone.
Stone was another option for Wu Tang Clan, but it might actually fall in line with 50 Cent.
I feel like the I feel like the what's the word? Like the feel
Mm-hmm.
of Stone. They're like their marketing, their
Arrogant bastard.
arrogant bet, and like the petty the pet like they have pettiness, and it's more so because they're getting rightfully shitted on for some of the shit that they did and do, but they kind of have that petty angle that 50 Cent has. Um, they were big enough at a point that they're kind of you wouldn't say Jay-Z level in terms of like umbrella, but 50 Cent like he hit a he's obviously a smart businessman
Yeah.
and knows how to create hype and also is petty
Yeah.
and in his day was one of the best at the time in terms of popularity.
Yeah. The way that some of his older songs can take me back, like again, you Get Rich or Die Trying has like a foothold for I don't know what reason, but Many Men like isn't such an iconic song. Like if there is if I had to like rate my 50 Cent songs, I think Many Men is at the top of the list for me. Like that is my like go to 50 Cent song.
That's actually if I had to pick a 50 Cent song, that's like actually a good question.
Yeah.
Halfway cop out would probably be Hate It or Love It, which is only half of a 50 Cent
That's the
song. It's only
game.
50
And
cents of a
I
50
didn't
Cent
even like
song.
bring the game into this conversation because I think there is a brewery that exists for him, but again, it's definitely West Coast.
it's got to be West Coast. I almost put Stone for the game, and I think there's a good argument for that because the game is also problematic himself. Stone is obviously West
You
Coast.
can't blame a nigga that's been in a coma. Like, I'm sorry. I don't know what part of me came out.
What was that? How dare you? No.
Moving on, because
Yeah.
obviously 50 Cent does not bring out a good side of me. Um,
Yeah, it's going to be a massacre going forward.
um, Three Floyds, Kanye West. And you know what? The joke I didn't bring out of it last time was talking about the geographical location of Three Floyds being not necessarily in Chicago, but Chicago adjacent in Indiana, but on the south side.
Mm.
So that
South,
element,
southeast.
but still the south side of
Yeah.
Chicago.
It is. It is in fact south of Chicago. Yes. Very technically, it is south of Chicago.
Kanye West's boundary pushing music and penchant for reinventation align with Three Floyd Brewing's experimental and boundary pushing beer styles, both renowned for their artistic innovation and willingness to defy norms. Okay, one more argument for Stone. Kanye could easily fall into this argument for Stone
New
because
Kanye. New Kanye is Stone.
Arrogant Bastard has always been Kanye. That is the reason he was successful.
Yeah.
But also, Old Stone was great. Old Kanye was great. Whatever new shit both
Yeah.
of them are on is some fuck shit.
Well, isn't Stone like? Didn't Stone get bought out by
Some Japanese shit after saying they would never get bought
Sapporo?
out.
Sapporo?
Yeah. No. Kanye is Stone. No more argument. That has been defined. Done. Done.
Put a TBD next to that one. We have Stone as three different people right now, and all of them are legitimate.
You have Stone as three different people. I have Stone as one.
And his last name is West. Stone is on the West Coast. It just, you know what could work for Kanye West though? At least back when we liked him, was he's from like his entire family's from the South, and then he's obviously from Chicago, so he has this like Southern accent, Southern Midwest accent that's more Southern than Midwest because of that. Um, I was wondering if there's like a this would be like a research project, like a backstory of someone coming from the South and then going up into the Chicago area for a brewery. That would more than likely be a Kanye consideration, just because of how like that was like an iconic thing.
Yeah.
Is his old accent because now he talks like a white guy, which is weird. Like, have you heard him? Have you ever like seen a clip of him recently?
No, I
He
actively
sounds
avoid him.
he sounds like he's been practicing code switching for like 15 years, but he's still not comfortable with it.
He has been. Um,
Like just pull up anything recently and listen to him talk. Like that whole thing. You remember what he sounded like when he did that interview saying how slavery was a choice because it was 400 years or 600 years? You remember that? The way he talked in that, it's worse now. I don't know what I don't know what happened with him, but
we're gonna keep on trucking. Uh,
we're gonna keep on backing on here.
okay, this one was the easy one, but I do like the explanation. For Crowns and Hops and Kendrick Lamar Pairing Crowns and Hops with Kendrick Lamar highlights the contemporary, impactful contribution of both of the respective realms. Crowns and Hops, known for their commitment to diversity, inclusion, and advocating for change in the craft beer industry. Crowns and Hops represent a modern brewing movement, aiming to create spaces and beer that resonate with underrepresented communities. Kendrick Lamar, similarly, words. Kendrick Lamar is known for his socially conscious lyrics addressing important issues like race, inequality, and social justice. He's a voice for change in modern hip hop, using his platform to highlight critical societal issues. Both Crowns and Hops and Kendrick Lamar are contemporary, shaping their fields by championing inclusivity, diversity, and advocating for change. They represent a new wave focused on social impact, reflecting the evolving landscape of craft beer and rap music, embracing diversity and striving for positive change within their respective industries.
No notes here.
Yeah. And both heavily LA. Like
Yeah. Yeah. To the T.
Inglewood, like even like more like specifically for Crowns and Hops, like just like being very about home. Like this is like what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, and going big. Like just that also is huge. So that was easy one. All right, this is the one where I have two people for. Other half. Do you have any specifics for other half? Do you have somebody?
Drake.
Right. So the one that popped out when I put in when I did modern breweries and contemporary rappers, other half paired up with J. Cole, and I wasn't necessarily initially mad at it, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, nope, let's pair him with Drake.
Why J. Cole?
Known for its bold and innovative IPAs. Other half parallels J. Cole's impactful and introspective lyrics, both having gained. Both have gained significant traction in recent years, earning recognition for their consistent quality and forward-thinking approaches. You and I always have the conversation around J. Cole and Kendrick, and I am usually more Kendrick-leaning. I do appreciate J. Cole, and like J. Cole, I think a smidgen more than you do. And so for those reasons, I know you probably wouldn't say yes to J. Cole and other half anyway. And I would rather pair J. Cole with a Carolina brewery anyway.
Yeah, but I would also, I think, the only thing that I would say with other half is that, and J. Cole, is that like J. Cole has always been his sound. I don't think he hasn't strayed far from his sound very often. Like For Your Eyes Only is probably the most
biggest stray, yeah. But I mean,
and even that really is.
So are you saying
I'm saying I'm trying to. Yeah, I'm trying to like devil's advocate why I would make that comparison at all. Because other than that, I think I prefer what J. Cole's doing in recent years way more than I prefer the way other half has done things in recent years.
Oh, that's fair. That's a fair. The only thing I really like that other half did. The only thing I like that other half did was come to Philly,
which is cool, I guess. But it was like the thing I don't like about other half is that you had one, you kind of had them all in terms of they throw so many different beers out. There's always a new beer. There's always new, but they're always hazy IPA or double. They're all double dry hops. They're like and the only thing they really change is like maybe they tweak a thing here and there. They change the hops here and there, but it's like it's the same fucking beer with slightly different hops. And sure, it tastes good. It's not bad at all. Like they make a good beer. But I feel like if they had one flagship that was just the flagship and they didn't have 50 million, like they have beers that they make regularly that I see. And I'm just like, but they inundate you with all these other things to the point where it's like I can't say confidently that they have a flagship. It's just they have a bunch of beers, and some of them they'll make more often, and some of them they don't. They only made one time. Um, and so because of that, they flood the market with the same shit.
What I am hearing is that you have a much deeper respect for J. Cole than I ever would have put on. So I appreciate this.
I think. Well, here's what I think. I think if J. Cole and Kendrick rap battled right now,
don't don't start this again because you know I agree. You're arguing
Kendrick,
with the woman upstairs.
no. I think right now Kendrick would win, but it'd be a slight margin. It would be a
I think
tight
the margin has closed. I think the gap
like
is
Black
closed.
Friday times.
No. It's not
Black
comparable.
Friday times, J. Cole would have gotten laughed off stage.
Okay. Start. I'm gonna pull my plug here. Start with your argument for why other half should in fact be Drake.
It's like you knew. Um, Drake. So just as I said, led the market with a bunch of bullshit. The only thing I'll say for Drake, and maybe I'll wait. Tyler's back already, but oh Jesus Christ! Okay, I, we're doing Drake. We might as well have a Miller Lite.
Miller
Um,
High Life. Put some respect on it.
the only thing that I will say against Drake for other half is that
Other
he
half's pretty
has
good.
he has come up with attempting some different styles here and there. But maybe that's also other half because other
Okay.
half does have things,
Their
but
Marzen was pretty good.
generally it's going to be some bullshit in this two lane mainstream window, and he's just going to pump it out, and it's going to suck. It's going to suck for people who care about anything besides mainstream like background music, I guess.
Right.
Um, like and even when he does other styles, he's not doing them any better than just going and listening to someone who does that thing. Like
So
that's just their
I think it's very interesting because the way that whatever algorithm they're working with, they chose the Alchemist for Drake, and the reasoning was the Alchemist iconic beer Heady Topper shares a parallel with Drake's consistent chart-topping hits and influence in the rap world. Both have maintained a strong presence and popularity, becoming synonymous with excellence in their respective domains. And so I think this is where like AI kind of always falls short. It's it recognizes Drake for what Drake is without realizing who they paired it up with isn't correct.
yeah.
Because Alchemist made Heady Topper, made Focal Banger, like made these like really good beers that stand the test of time, that stand, hey, if you are a beer snob, you eventually have to have this. You have to
Yeah.
get
So
it.
basically, they have two classic albums.
Right.
Name Drake's two classic albums.
A lot of people are trying to get every album's classic, you bitch. Um, but so like I guess I'm gonna like blow smoke up his ass real quick. Is
That's the time where I leave and go get another beer.
it's
But
um Drake's consist I the conversation I think Marquis said it to me in this realm where he referred to somebody that alluded to this. Drake is like the Shakespeare of hip hop, where he figured out a formula, he put out a bunch of it. It's successful because it follows this set formula. But if you were to actually break it down and address it, it's the same thing over and over again. And that's the other half element of it. I think that's where he falls
okay,
into to other half. Um, I, so
I like that.
I
Yeah.
made you watch Shakespeare Abridged, right? Like it's they did that whole like thing. There's like, oh, his dramas actually ended up being funnier than his actual comedies. But so we took all of his comedies and we condensed them into one thing. and it shows that he followed a formula, but it showed also that if you try to break it down into this basic, oh, it's just the formula, why it doesn't work as just saying that, because there are the nuances that allow it to be successful. So at one time I am saying Drake is copy paste, but he also has like they they've also said this about Drake is he has an ear for music, but he also has no rhythm. What he has ended up doing, and the reason like people perceive him to have flow and have the swag or style or anything, is he can't keep a beat. Like if like producers have asked him to like try to do something before, and he can't keep that like beat for anything. What he knows how to do is fill the space in between the beats, and so that's where his style of rap works. Is he can you give him a beat and he can fill in between like one, two,
Mhm.
three, four. He can fill in between those, but he couldn't
That
actually
explains,
do one, two.
that explains why he's on these like airy ass beats that have nothing going on behind them. And he says something, and then there's just nothing. And then he says something else, and there's nothing.
Uh huh.
And he's like, because he says something, he's like, okay, I'm gonna catch the beat right. Okay, here.
Yeah, and that's what Drake is. So I think that's also where other half falls in line. So
Okay, that is something I never would even thought of, and I completely agree with you on.
are you grabbing another beer? Because the next one
Yeah,
you and I talked about, and I don't think
yeah.
you have too much, or you might have it, but I'll let you get back, and I'll start.
What is what were you talking? What which one?
Treehouse Cardi B.
Yeah, you explain it while I take a short intermission here.
All right, go find your Miller High Life. While Chris is out there looking for a Miller High Life that almost definitely does not exist in his fridge, next time I visit him, I will sneak some in there for him because everyone should have some Miller High Life in their fridge. Who and some Campari in their bar cart because who doesn't need a good spaghetti cocktail from time to time? Treehouse Brewing Company and Cardi B. Treehouse Brewing celebrated for its hazy, juicy IPAs, aligned with Cardi B's unapologetic and larger than life persona in the rap world. Both Treehouse and Cardi B have garnered immense popularity, captivating audiences with their distinctive styles. Um, I have to admit, when I originally saw this one, I kind of glanced over it, didn't recognize it, didn't register it. So when I came back and I saw Treehouse Cardi B and read into it, I was like, I actually like it for the culture. I think it's fun. I think it's vibrant. I think Treehouse is again one of those like heady topper conversations. It's something to be celebrated in the lane that it exists in. It's fun. It's juicy. Uh, there's a lot to be said about Treehouse. There's a lot to be said about Cardi B. And so I'm not actually necessarily mad about this pairing. But I'm really interested in what Chris has to say once he gets back. I will go into say The Alchemist and Drake don't necessarily fall in line. I would like to figure out who The Alchemist actually could be, though, one day.
Alchemist. Why not the Alchemist? There's literally, I mean, that's a producer, and Alchemist produces beer, right? So there's that. And you, I guess the only thing about the Alchemist versus shit, the brewery is called the Alchemist too, isn't it? They're both called the Alchemist. Shit. The only thing about the brewery Alchemist or the producer Alchemist is that the producer Alchemist kind of does he works with mainstream, but and he's pretty influential, but then it's also more of a hard lane that's kind of often alternative space.
Mm.
So the Alchemist and the Alchemist actually doesn't work, which hurts because that would have been amazing. That's what I have to say on that. So
All right. I already said Sammy Adams is Jay-Z, and I think we both kind of
NBA,
we've agreed there. The last one that I haven't said to you, which I think is interesting, is Victory Brewing Company and Meek Mills.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes to all. I agree with that. I think the only other person I would go victory would be it would have to be Philly, and it would have to be like uh Freeway maybe.
yeah. So Freeway is one of the people that I want to try to identify. I want to identify. Shit. Oh, Cassidy is a rapper I would like to identify.
That's gonna be tough.
Yeah, but it's somebody that would have like really funny beer names. Really, who was like the Punchline Brewery? You know?
I mean, I feel like Evil Genius,
Oh, that was easy. You see how easy that was? And they're both kind of shit.
but back in the day, you couldn't tell us nothing about Cassidy.
I loved Cassidy. I still kind of enjoy him for who he is.
Yeah, he's just you got to be in the mood.
Yeah, and I would admit that mood does not come up often.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find
Oh God.
my victory. I added much more to this chat than originally anticipated. Victory Brewing Company, known for its diverse and well crafted lineup of beers, Victory Brewing represents resilience and success, much like the brewery's name itself. Victory's impact on the craft beer scene aligns with Meek's Mill rise from the streets of Philadelphia to becoming a prominent figure in the rap industry. Meek
The street.
Mill's journey, marked by resilience and a commitment to success, mirrors Victory's growth and recognition as a brewery. Both have made significant contributions to their respective fields, representing the spirit and determination of Philadelphia's vibrant culture.
That was wordy.
Yep, I got another one for you.
ChatGPT. Oh, also, I'm now drinking Collusion Tapworks Homunculus. Is
Ooh, there's so
there,
like there's obviously a lot of like things to consider for this. What we would put and where. I think the easiest way when we actually go to make a definitive list of this is to like take the two lists, right? We're going to take the two lists. We're going to take the top 50 breweries of all time, the top 50 hip hop artists of all time, right? And we're going to go through and we're going to X some people out that we just really don't care about. We're going to X some breweries out that we just really don't care about. And then we're going to start like
okay.
putting things together. I think that will be the easiest way to put the first list together, like really just separate the cream from the milk or whatever it is. Um,
The cream from the crop, they rise to the top.
House of Pain, nigga.
Yeah.
I've exceeded
They
my.
said
I've exceeded my nigga quota for the next 3 seasons.
yeah, or
I'm-
better yet, the Terminator, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
oh, what Nader? I'm the Terminator, like Troganator.
I'm the Troganator, like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
There we go. But I think there's some things that we haven't addressed yet. I don't think we've figured out a definitive Trogs. As we said, Freeway is
No,
somebody that we would actually enjoy figuring out. Jack Frost. No, I'm kidding. Jack Frost isn't on this list, but I just had to like throw his name out there.
he could be in the sense that there's a local brewery that is extremely local that had some type of underground impact in
I,
just the city.
that's easy because there's a whole section of this town called Brewery Town, right? Like Philadelphia
Yeah,
had like a crazy amount of breweries at one point, to the point where it all mattered. Your favorite beer worked on two levels. It was either the brewery that you worked at or the block that you lived on, because that's how close it was to get to a brewery.
Crazy.
Um, Dock Street. Dock Street was one that I was like, you know,
True. What we talked about Dock Street earlier. Didn't we land on a Dock Street?
I don't believe so. Oh, Chill Moody. Chill Moody was the one that we landed on. But that's one of those. It works in the sense if you don't follow a timeline. It works in the sense of because there's actually the collaboration, right?
True. That is true.
There's another conversation I have to have with you once we get off this. Um, I'm not doing well. But Will Smith for Dock Street.
You know, at this point, I forgot that Will Smith is a Philly dude, and I'm glad I forgot about that until you had to bring it back up.
Dock Street
'Cause
Brewery is one of the
the shit that's been
pioneering.
coming out with him, my God.
I look. I just need him to get away from Jada. That's honestly it.
Well, you know, I was watching this one video that kind of did a whole like historical recounting of the road so far type of deal, and I didn't realize how much of a self-centered egotist he is.
I wouldn't take
And
that.
as bad as horrific as she's done him in certain situations, he has done her to the point that it's like, okay, both of these people are shit.
They need to get away from each other. I
Yeah.
still have.
No hope for him.
I think you have no hope for Will.
Bro, like she never wanted to get married and he forced that on her, pretty much.
Yeah. No, they're
Only
both
because
bad for each other. They're
I
bad
think
for
they're
each
both
other. I
bad
think
for
they're
each
bad
other.
for each other. I think there's
I think Hollywood
I was gonna say like
would do
celebrity
well.
regardless like
Mhm.
there's so much negative things about every celebrity, right? Like I think that ultimately is the truth. Um, as much as we would like to idolize some of these people, I think there's obviously a lot of like bad against Will, obviously, right? I just happen to be a more Will supporter than a Jada supporter because like I just like Will more. There's things that resonate with me with Will Smith more, and therefore
Listen,
I
I
want them
ain't
to get away
happy.
from each other so I can like Will better again.
Will's always been a he's always been a little off to me in terms of like the person. And I feel like maybe that's just because like by the time we were old enough to really care, like he was so big of a star that he was like unattainable as a person anymore.
Right.
So I don't know where all that fills into it, but it's like there's always been like something there
That's
with it.
interesting. I
Like
like
is
that.
he always just the smiley kind of guy, you know?
I
And
like
he's
that.
able to do serious roles as well, but
That actually brings me to another. Well, okay. So, another person I would like to see us define is Common,
mm,
and I don't think we need to find an answer tonight. He's one that I would like to define. I gave an option for Lupe, but I really didn't know the brewery itself, so I didn't want to
yeah,
get too far into it. Funky Buddha, which I know nothing about. I don't know if it's from the Midwest. I don't know if it's from Chicago. I don't know anything of it, and so I'm just gonna leave that one alone. Um,
okay,
but
yeah.
there's
I was gonna say that's one that obviously I would love an answer to.
right. We can
Yeah,
look into that one a little bit more.
yeah,
Um, tonight we can do that. I'm just gonna quick rattle off some like names of maybe. I did mention Two Chains. I think would be fun. But obviously, just saying that Ludacris would be a great one to figure out.
Ludacris would be a great one. I want to say Down Home
Oh, that's a good
from
one.
the Atlanta connection and the fact that I vaguely remember like the artwork being kind of that like like something Luda-esque in terms of like the flamboyance of it almost. I vaguely remember that can art that from the T palm.
Yeah, that was so good.
Yeah. So
See,
yeah.
now this was an awful one. I put 2 Chainz in and they said Cigar City, and I think that's bullshit, but Cigar City definitely needs to be on the list.
Well, Cigar City's probably like Rick Ross.
Yeah, so that was the other person I was thinking of too. I was like, who do you pair Rick Ross with? But what also helped me think of another person that we have to uh, consider. Maybe we'll ask Ryan for Schoolboy Q.
Oh boy, Q.
Also, this is looking ridiculous at the moment.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, that's it. This one. Schoolboy Q is an interesting one. I don't know that we. Hmm. It would almost be easier to do TDE as a whole, or even just Black Hippie,
Mm.
because I feel like I feel like Schoolboy Q at this point isn't completely separated from that enough.
Well, here's somebody that we'll have to consider as well. Um, we got to consider Nikki. We got to consider Meg the Stallion,
Fair enough.
which is fair enough to even then bring it back to like maybe even thinking about Eve, thinking about Remy. Do we bring Fat Joe into the mix?
See, so here's the thing: as soon as it's a New York rapper from that era,
Papoose?
it gets difficult. Papoose as well.
What about Ja Rule?
Papoose, Ja Rule,
Jadakiss?
The Locks as a whole, or Jadakiss separately from that. Fabulous.
Oh my god, I forgot about Fabulous.
Exactly.
What about Twista?
That Twista, Lloyd
Were you about to
Banks.
say Dylon? Dylon, Dylon, Dylon.
We could go Dylon, we could go Dylon, 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 Dylon. That guy spit hot fire, so
What about Super Hot Fire?
oh, he's just whatever's the best, he's that.
Hear me out. Lil Dicky.
A gimmicky brewery,
I
if
put
I'm being
Little Wayne down. I put Little Wayne down. That's what I actually meant.
Lil Wayne. Nola's the obvious choice, or uh Abita. But I feel like Abita might almost be like the generation before Wayne.
I feel like that could be like Master
Maybe
P or something, you know?
Master P or Baby.
Yeah.
Probably Master P. Even Nola. Ah, maybe Nola.
Yeah. I think, this was a great intro to this. It's an hour
Yeah.
and like 45 minutes worth of this.
Yes.
But I think it's very interesting because the more we talked, the more we realize the nuances of all of this. I think it's, again, a very interesting, like, the whole point of us doing this show and getting into all these nuances of things, whether they are beer, whether they are music, oftentimes they're both. But there's all these other like different areas that we discuss about, but it's the nuances of things, right? Um, Hip hop culture, rap culture finds itself into craft beer. We didn't even get into the KRS One video that from Ty Gothcore that we were talking about, but there's this parallel timeline that runs between these two, which I think is very unique and interesting. And I think that's the really cool correlation that we get to work with here.
Yeah,
But as much
definitely.
time as we talk about the issues with breweries and the hyper localization of things. You know, especially early on in rap and distribution of music, it was harder to get access to it. Now in beer, you know, with access to things like Tavor, with like Untapped subscriptions, other subscriptions and stuff like that, you still get those sent to you as an option. But to get the more personalized stuff, the more mainstream, not mainstream, underground stuff, you would still need a connection in that area to know what's actually happening, be it rap or actual craft beer, right? So I think there still is this parallel. Like we often forget about this underground world of like music still that's very much similar to the underground world of craft beer because we're not even getting into, you know, home brewing. Like for instance, like we can even go back home and I can think of a couple people that we know that put out music as like artists back home that are like on Spotify. Like I could listen to like Zabala
Yeah,
stuff like in the next 5 minutes. But that's
yeah,
super hyper fucking localized. Like
absolutely,
but
absolutely.
it's not less real, and I think that's even like us making a beer at home is not any less real.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think that also, like you said, like it kind of parallels super local breweries, even like people that don't distribute that or can. For for example, you have Punch Buggy. They don't? Do they? Does Punch Buggy can
a
and
little
distribute it?
bit, but it's not like I go
Yeah.
there to get
Or
their
the
shit.
what's that brewery that's closer to you now that they have a tiny spot and they sell out a beer and it's like that's it because
Oh, My
they
not
like
Myers,
not Myers but
Humble Parlor.
Number Parlor, yeah. So it's like places like that, yeah, you can equate those places to like your local legends, people that had an influence in your very specific city or town, and that's kind of really it.
I mean,
But
like let's not even forget the breweries that we could have easily brought up, like Saucony Creek, like not Humble Parlor, Chatty Monks, Broken Chair, Hidden River. We didn't bring up because they just aren't one within a city that's big enough, you know, or not like they're not big enough even
yeah, we're gonna go.
next
We
to
were
Philly.
going local. I was gonna say like if we were gonna go local, it was going to be at the very least a regional place or a Philly place that people might have actually been able to hear of
Right.
before.
But even that, I didn't bring up Myers. I didn't bring up Humble Parlor. I didn't bring up Crime and Punishment, which is actually featured on Untapped. Like, you know, like both Fermentary Forum. Like, there's so many places that could easily get brought up that just don't, like, necessarily garner, when you're looking comparatively, like, with hip hop as well, like, just that, like, level of, not respect, but notoriety, right? So,
Yeah, I was gonna say though in quickly because you brought them up.
yeah,
Fermentary form
ODB.
because he funky. Everything's funky.
Yeah.
You know what? That's not bad, but I would say that ODB was bigger,
Oh, yeah.
like
We
was
didn't even
big
bring up
enough.
Tired Hands.
For
I don't know who, but like,
I'll just bring them up. I was gonna say fermentary form might be someone like, or fermentary forms, rather, I should say fermentary form counterpart in the way they conduct business in terms of like, hey, we're only going to be open like for 3 hours this month on this day in the morning, get there or be square type of deal. Like that type of conduction of business. If there's any place like that in New Orleans, I would go with that and say J Electronica,
there you go.
who
So,
just might put out music once every 10 years or something.
you know,
So
but again, I think this is something that's worth exploring some more. I definitely think it holds a lot of opportunity when you're talking about trying to bring people from different cultures into like different elements. I definitely think this is a really good way of like saying like And we've mentioned this a couple of different times. Like, oh yeah, this is like really like the Jay-Z of the beer world. I think that's a good way of trying to cross
Yeah.
people into just like exploring
Yeah,
different
definitely.
opportunities.
Definitely. I think it's very beneficial from a person who doesn't maybe like certain artists or doesn't know certain artists, but they like beer. We're like, okay, we're talking about why this rapper is this brewery. Like, oh, I didn't know this rap like I know this rapper was this way. Maybe I'll check them out.
Right,
Or the opposite, you know. Oh,
exactly.
I love GDC. Boom, boom, boom.
And to do a brief like connection to the Ty Gothcore's KRS post, because I think this is going to be an ongoing conversation with us, and I think something we build out upon. But basically, the reason you don't see KRS-One at any of these things to celebrate the 50th anniversary, it was just like because you're celebrating a very specific niche of the culture, right? It's hip hop. It's not, you're celebrating rappers. You're not celebrating hip hop in these moments, right? And you are an industry that has been around, and you have seen all 49 years prior and didn't really celebrate this until this. It's like, so you won't see me here unless you're seeing me like destroy it from within. If you see me at one of these things, it's oh shit, right? Is basically what he said. And I think what's true about that is he was talking about the other elements that go into it, because it's graffiti, it's breakdancing, it's all these other things, it's DJing that go into hip hop that is more than just rapping, and it's
This
this whole
fashion as well,
culture.
dance, fashion and dance.
Yeah, it's all of this, and so I think what's to be said is we're at a point too in the craft beer industry where having good beer and just good beer alone is not enough, right? You need a whole experience. You need to be more inclusive to that. And so when we were trying to think a little more strategically and more intentionally about who would be who when it comes to brewery and rappers, you have to think about the intentionality behind the two, because Sam Adams and Jay Z have a very distinct intentionality about who they seek partnerships with, what else they are trying to like instill into you as soon as you walk through the doors, right? You know, if Sam Adams is present in an area, it's most likely because they are also providing jobs, right? And so if Sam Adams is in Cincinnati, it's not just like oh, we ship beer to like this tap room, but like Sam Adams Cincinnati facility is fucking huge, right? Like it's the brewery, and then like actually if you go a little further, you see a whole warehouse for like production. Um, and I think these are the things that we didn't consciously tie together all the time, but these are like the subconscious reasons why we're saying, oh, this is good for this person, or this is the reason why we think these people connect. And I think that's what I've seen a couple articles recently that show a downward trend in craft beer in terms of just unexpected trends or unexpected things that aren't going as well for breweries. And I think really what it comes down to is intentionality. It's always going to be intentionality. Is what are we doing to make sure that okay, yeah, the beer has to be good, that's fine, but what also are you doing from the moment somebody walks in? It shouldn't matter what that person looks like when they walk in. And but I think a lot of people come at it from that perspective. I was like, oh, I don't care what you look like when you come in. I just want you to have a good time. But that's the
Yeah.
I don't see color issue. I was like, but
Right.
you
It's like,
you
well,
need
how are
to,
you, yeah, how are you creating the
right,
atmosphere that's going
because
to
five
enhance
people
the
walk in, white, black, yellow, brown, purple, right? You need to make sure that every single one of them have what they need in order to be comfortable when they walk in.
well,
But
the
if you
purple
only
person
see them
needs air.
as green,
Green needs a doctor. Purple person needs some air because they're suffocating.
so like, but like the looking at that capacity, like how do you make sure that you're always being very intentional about what's going on? How do you make sure that
Yeah.
you are accommodating in the best way possible, and are just really creating something not different but unique for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't have to be crazy left field, right? It's just got to be welcoming and it's got to be like intentionally you, but inclusive as well. And it's a hard balance to strike, but at the end of the day, I think it's good for your business if anything else. So it's something to strive for.
All right. Well, until next time.
Peace.